before you say so and so must go, ask yourself whether the second category, the third category, and the fourth category are also saying the same. Unless they say someone must go, there is nowhere that we are going. Welcome to the Political Oracle, and today I am going to discuss something that is at the core of Kenyan politics. Who are voters in Kenya? In most cases, you realize we usually wonder, where do our votes go? After my many years of studying especially presidential politics and politics across the world, there are things that many Kenyans do not know or do not understand about who drives politics, who counts the votes. Remember, the one Soviet politician and revolutionary who led the Soviet Union from 1924, he was called Joseph Stalin, said, "It is not the people who vote that count, that it is the people who count the votes who actually make it count in elections." And so, who are voters in Kenya? I am going to shock you by telling you that in Kenya, we have 4 categories of people who determine the vote. And I'm going to rank them in a kind of pyramid from those who are at the lowest level and those who are at the highest level of influence. The first category in the lowest level are the Kenyans who offer their time to cast a vote. In Kenya, if you have a vote, if you go and queue and vote for the leader that you want, that is actually the freedom of suffrage that came with the democracies in the world. And this kind of people, you and me, the only thing we offer is our time to cast a ballot for a certain leader. What we offer is actually the resource that God has given us. Remember, wealthy people do not even have votes. Yes, you've heard me. I don't know how many of you in your history of voting, you have ever queued and you have seen a billionaire, a multimillionaire queuing to come and vote for their leader. They don't vote, but they are voters in another category. And that is why I'm saying the first category of these are actually the people we call voters. We register them as voters, we educate them about voting, and then we expect them to go very early in the morning to queue and vote for their leader. In fact, their leader usually come and they jump the line, they vote and go their way because they value their time. And that is the first category of voters. Number 2, those who decide from the boardroom. Let me tell you, the people who decide, for example, who is to be president, that is decided in the boardroom, and then it is presented to the first category of voters. And I know this is very important. Like now, we are having, for example, this opposition conclave that is moving around with the Gachagua, with the likes of Matiang'i, with the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka. At the end of it, we will ask them, who have you chosen to be your presidential flag bearer? So who is deciding who is to run? And at that particular point, the voters in category 1, they have no power. It is actually these people who go and sit down in a boardroom and they decide, this is the person we are going to support as a presidential candidate. And that is why I'm saying the second category of voters are those who decide from the boardroom. The first category votes for the person who is given by the second category. So who has power? And that is why when it comes to the power dynamics, we need to understand who chooses the leader. Is it the first category? No, because that leader has already been decided in the second category. And remember, that is what we have been doing. We see coalitions, and coalitions sit down and they come and announce to us the person they have decided to be their flag bearer. And that is the person that the first category of voters will go and vote for. The third category of voters are people who influence elections through their resources. And these are the people I've told you, they are top one business magnates who do business with the government and the system. These people, you will never find them queuing with the first category to vote for leaders. They don't queue. They have no time. They value their time. They give their resources. Of course, that is why I said resources that the poor people have is their time. And this third category, they have money. And remember, money is a very powerful tool in the world. With the money, you can influence ideas, you can influence values, you can influence beliefs. And that is what the third category of voters do. They use their money to influence politics in this country. And how they do that, they are able to finance the second category. Okay, remember, they finance the second category of people who sit down in the boardroom and decide who is going to be the leader. And when they decide, they will finance that coalition or that person to the end, because their interest is the business that they do with the government. Who are the fourth category of voters? These are the people who influence the vote through their power. They are multifaceted in terms of the power that they have, the power structure. In most cases, they are international community. They decide the vote. When I was analyzing the book, How to Rig an Election, I tried to analyze how the powerful people are able to influence elections in their way, even in the most legal way and most subtle way that many people cannot maybe understand. Let me give you an example of the United States. What power do they have? The United States have the economic power through the dollar. They have the military power. They also have technological innovation. That's another power they have. They drive the AI. They have the NASA. They have the DAPRA. And through technology, they are able to do anything. In fact, they can close down your electoral system if they want. If you are streaming live your elections, they can close it down because they have the power to do that. They also have cultural and media power. In their political and diplomatic power, that is where we have now organs like United Nations. They have also economic powers and economic institutions like the Wall Street banks, the World Bank, the IMF, and other institutions in which actually all countries, including Kenya, keep their reserves. Of course, they have the power of education and research and ideological appeal. With all this power, this is the first category. These people, you will never see them coming to vote. You will never see them queuing. But they influence the third category because they are the ones who give them the infrastructure on which they do business. The third category influence the second category by financing them because elections are very expensive. And I remember one of the videos that we did in this podcast was about the cost of an election for each category from MCA to presidency. And maybe you need to go back and check on it. When we say the votes are stolen, the first category can only steal votes through criminal actions like vote stuffing, like destroying and spoiling the vote at the ballot. But the second, the third, and fourth categories of voters, they know how to steal an election without even touching your ballot. They don't go to the polling stations. They are not registered as voters, but they have the highest influence in that order of who is to be president of this country. As we end to 2027, watch this space and try to ask yourself, how much do you know about these categories of voters? How much do you believe that they influence who is going to be leader? So before you say so and so must go, ask yourself whether the second category, the third category, and the fourth category are also saying the same. Because unless they say someone must go, there is nowhere that we are going.